Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something tonight, something real, something heavy. You ever been in a relationship where it felt like no matter what you did, it was never enough? Like you were always the one trying, always the one fixing, always the one begging for just a little bit of decency? That's what it's like dealing with a narcissist. Narcissists thrive on control, and losing your emotional reaction threatens their power. See, a narcissist doesn't just want to be part of your life, they want to dominate it. They want to control how you think, how you feel, how you respond. Every time you cry, every time you beg, every time you argue, that's fuel for them. It tells them they still matter to you. It confirms that they still have a hold on your heart and your mind. Your emotional reactions are their proof that they are still relevant, still powerful in your world. That's what they feed on. Not love, not kindness, not connection, but power and attention. And as long as you keep reacting, they keep winning. But the moment you stop reacting, the moment you detach emotionally and mentally, that's when things shift. When they push your buttons and you don't respond, it confuses them. When you stop chasing, stop explaining yourself, stop playing the game, their power starts to crumble. You see, their entire identity was built on how much control they had over you. Your silence, your peace, your lack of engagement, it disrupts the whole structure they created. They no longer know where they stand, and that's terrifying for someone who depends on manipulation to feel significant. That's why indifference cuts deeper than anger ever could. It says you no longer have influence here. And for a narcissist, that's the ultimate defeat. Because once they lose control of your emotions, they realize they've lost their grip entirely. You become a mirror showing them just how powerless they truly are. And they can't stand that reflection. Your indifference speaks louder than any argument or confrontation. See, when you're dealing with a narcissist, they expect noise. They expect drama. They want you to plead, to break down, to question yourself, to get emotional, to try and fix what they purposely shattered. That's the space they feel powerful in, the chaos. Because in that chaos, they can twist the story, paint themselves as the victim, and turn your pain into their proof that you're too much or too emotional. That's their playground. But when you go silent, when you decide that your peace is more important than proving a point, that silence is definite. You see, arguments can be flipped. They can be used against you. If you raise your voice, they'll say you're aggressive. If you cry, they'll say you're unstable. If you try to explain, they'll accuse you of overthinking. But when you stop explaining, when you stop reacting, when you stop engaging altogether, that's a whole new level. They can't manipulate it. It throws them off. They don't know what to do with that. Because for once, you're the one in control. You've stepped out of the cycle. And now they can't predict you. They can't feed off your emotion because you're not giving them any. That's where your power is. In the stillness, in the calm, in the steady refusal to give them what they want. See, your indifference tells the story without you saying a word. It tells them, you no longer matter to me. not in hate, not in love, but in absolute disinterest. And let me tell you, for a narcissist, that is the most painful truth, because love and hate still tie you to them. But indifference, that's freedom. That's detachment. That means they don't live in your head or your heart anymore. They've been evicted. And nothing threatens a narcissist more than being forgotten. They would rather be hated than irrelevant, because hate still gives them a role in your life. When you walk past them without flinching, when you don't respond to their texts, when you no longer check their social media, when your name doesn't come up with emotion in your voice, they start to panic. They'll try to provoke you. They'll try to bait you into reacting again. They might even try to charm you back, acting like they've changed. But that indifference, that emotional neutrality, that quiet strength, that's what drives them mad. Because now they know they're not in your heart, not in your thoughts, not in your world anymore. And the beauty of it is, you didn't have to raise your voice. You didn't have to argue. You didn't need to convince anyone of your worth. You just decided you were done, and you meant it. That decision, that calm, steady energy, that peace that you now carry, it's the loudest statement you'll ever make. And they hear it. Trust me, they hear it, they feel it, and they know deep down they've lost their hold on you for good. The shift from being manipulated to standing strong unsettles them deeply. A narcissist becomes comfortable in the role they create for you. They mold you into the giver, the forgiver, the one who always tries harder, always loves more, always bends. They feed off that version of you. The one that doubts herself, the one that constantly questions, what did I do wrong? As long as you stay in that place, they feel secure, not loved, secure, because your weakness feeds their ego. Your insecurity keeps them elevated. They need you to feel less so they can feel more. They need you confused so they can feel powerful. It's not about partnership, it's about control. That's the game, but then something changes. One day, you stop asking what's wrong with you and start wondering what's wrong with them. One day, you stop trying to fix the relationship and start fixing yourself. You go quiet. You get still. And in that stillness, you begin to heal. You begin to see clearly. You recognize the manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional ups and downs weren't love, they were control tactics. And that realization, that's the beginning of your strength. That's when the shift starts. And let me tell you, that shift is powerful, because now you're not reacting the same. You're not chasing after them when they pull away. You're not begging for their attention when they go cold. You're not falling for the same lies dressed in pretty words. You see through it now. You've pulled the mask off, and you can't unsee what's real. And when a narcissist sees that shift in you, when they realize you're no longer easily controlled, no longer easily guilted, no longer desperate for their crumbs, they feel it deeply, and they don't like it. They'll try to test you. They'll poke at your boundaries. They'll say things just to see if they can still get a rise out of you. They'll bring up your past mistakes, your old wounds, just to shake you. But you're different now. You've grown. You've learned that peace is not found in their approval. It's found in your own self-worth. You've stepped into a place of strength where their validation no longer determines your value. And that strength unsaddles them. It throws off their balance, because for the first time, they're not calling the shots. For the first time, you're not dancing to their rhythm. You're standing still, grounded, and whole. And that's terrifying to someone who only knew how to love you broken. They don't know what to do with a version of you that isn't begging, crying, or chasing. They can't control this version. They can't predict this version. They can't manipulate this version. You've stepped into your power and they feel the shift. They see it in your eyes, in the way you speak, in the way you walk away without looking back. And that's when they realize they've lost you, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and they know there's no getting you back. Because you're not just done with them, you're done with the version of you that needed them. And that truth, that shift, it breaks the hold they once had. It makes them realize that the game is over and you've already won. When you reclaim your peace, you rob the narcissists of their fuel. That peace, that quiet confidence, that inner stillness, it's not just something you gain for yourself. It's something that takes away what they thrive on. See, a narcissist survives off of emotional chaos. They need your pain to feel powerful. They need your confusion to feel in control. Your anxiety, your overthinking, your need for answers, that's all fuel for them. Every time you second guess yourself or try to explain yourself to someone who never really listens, you're feeding their ego. You're giving them what they want. But peace is different. Peace says, I no longer need your approval. Peace says, I'm not engaging with the drama anymore. Peace is when you start waking up in the morning without checking your phone to see if they message you. Peace is when your mood isn't tied to whether they gave you attention that day or not. That kind of freedom, that kind of emotional independence starves them. It's like you're shutting off the supply. You're no longer reacting, no longer explaining, no longer giving them access to the most vulnerable parts of you. And they feel it. When you choose peace, you choose yourself. You take all that energy you were pouring into them and redirect it inward, into healing, into growth, into joy. And they can't stand that. Because without your emotional energy, they're left with themselves. And that's a place they don't know how to live in. You rob them of their fuel and they're left with emptiness. But you're finally full of clarity, strength, and freedom. Growth is painful, but silence and self-worth are louder than chaos. When you've been trapped in a cycle of emotional highs and lows, breaking free doesn't feel like a victory at first. It feels like grief. You mourn the version of yourself that tolerated too much, forgave too quickly, and stayed too long. You miss the illusion of love. Even when you know it wasn't real. Growth isn't pretty in the beginning. It's quiet. It's lonely. It forces you to sit with everything you try to ignore while you were focused on someone else's needs. And that silence, it can be deafening. But inside that silence is where you find your voice. You begin to understand that self-worth isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you uncover within yourself. It's built in those moments where you want to respond, but you choose peace. Where you want to argue, but you choose to walk away. Where you want to prove your point, but you no longer need to. That's power. That's strength. That's healing. And that quiet strength speaks louder than all the chaos you once lived in. A narcissist they won't understand it. They'll think you've become cold, distant, unbothered. But really, you've just become centered. You're no longer looking to them to define your worth. You've realized that love isn't supposed to hurt like that. It's not supposed to leave you drained and doubting yourself. Real love feels safe. It feels calm. And now that you've tasted that peace, that deep, unshakable kind of peace, you'll never trade it for chaos again. Because what you found in your silence is stronger than anything they ever gave you. Freedom comes when you realize you never needed their validation. For so long, you might have believed that your worth depended on how they saw you, their approval, their praise, their attention. You lived in a world where their opinion was the measuring stick of your value, where their mood dictated your happiness. But here's the truth. That kind of dependence is a trap. It's a cage built from someone else's fragile ego, and it keeps you small, uncertain, and always chasing after something that can never truly satisfy you. When you finally step outside of that cage, you begin to see clearly. You realize that validation from a narcissist is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it will never be enough. They are experts at taking, never giving. Their praise is conditional, their love is transactional, and their approval is never fully earned. Once you understand that, you start to understand your own value on your own terms. Freedom is realizing that you don't need anyone else to tell you who you are or how much you're worth. You begin to give yourself permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to love yourself exactly as you are. You stop shrinking to fit into their world or trying to fix what was never broken. Your spirit, that freedom brings a new kind of power. One that can't be taken away by criticism, neglect, or manipulation. It's in this freedom that you reclaim your life. You stop living to please them and start living to please yourself. You invest your time and energy in things and people who truly see you, respect you, and uplift you. And with that shift, you become whole again. You become whole without their validation, without their approval, and without their control. And that realization, that's what scares the narcissist the most. Because once you're free from needing their validation, you become unstoppable. You're no longer bound by their rules or defined by their expectations. You're free to be who you really are, and nothing can take that away.